We want to make sure Nancy's not on mute.
I've just unmuted myself.
There you go.
Good morning, everybody. As the title states, I'm going to be talking about engaging the youth of the community as a part of what we're doing with Heritage Crossroads. And it's a combination of the needs for Heritage Crossroads, because as I'm sure most of you are finding out yourselves, sometimes our organizations, we tend to age pretty quickly, and we need to bring in young people. And what a better way than to bring in high school students, college students, to do some of the legwork and programs that we want to do, but may not have all the volunteers, and at the same time get them excited about their community, maybe in ways that they themselves haven't even considered. All right, T, if you can change slide. Thank you. So welcome to Heritage Crossroads Heritage Highway. We are designated as the first Heritage Highway in 2008. We are 98 miles long, pretty twisted road there, but we make it. Centered in Bunnell and Flagler County, and if you are like me and grew up in Florida and wondered, well, is there actually something between Daytona Beach and St. Augustine? Yes, Flagler County, filled with a lot of good history. And as you note, some of our key partners are the Florida Ag Museum, which is growing by leaps and bounds, our Flagler Historical Society, and of course, one of the many branches for Daytona State College. Change slide. So our mission statement, mission of the Heritage Crossroads Byway organization is to highlight the historic resources of Florida's first Heritage Highway by promoting, enhancing, and preserving the unique character of these resources and their place in Florida history. Please note that in Flagler County, you not only have evidence of ancient Native Americans in this area, you have colonial sites, you have sites relevant to the Second Seminole Indian War, the Civil War, and of course more modern 21st century agricultural history as well. So it's quite a fascinating area that is very untapped in all that it can achieve. So through education and interpretation, we will enhance the experience of visitors and the community's appreciation of the region's heritage. Part of our values, appreciation for the history of Flagler County, building a vibrant local economy, because certainly heritage sites, historical sites, they will bring in people, and that will just bring in more money to the local region. Respect for the founding families of the region, all who have quite an interesting history. Desire to ensure the future generations understand their roots, which I think is what all of our areas should be doing to some extent, to let people understand, especially here in Florida, the amazing development of this state. Even in the last 50 years, it certainly has changed. Appreciation for the balance between community, heritage, the natural beauty of the region, and growth, and maintaining strong partnerships with other community advocacy groups having similar interests. I know here in Flagler County, we have quite a few different historical, heritage-oriented groups, and we do try to work together to promote the heritage of the entire county. Next slide. Some of the goals that we focus on, particularly goal 4 in regards to our topic for today, increase awareness of our unique regional history and appreciation for our rich environment through development and presentation of our corridor story to residents and tourists. So we want to make certain that for a number of these young people who may have simply moved in as children, to let them have a connection and help them to understand that this is a very unique area. Florida is definitely not like the rest of the South, and we want to promote that and let them see the struggles, but the grand achievements that have been made in this state. Next. So, how do we do that? Well, in part, we do it through my official day job, which is Associate Professor of History at Daytona State College. And Daytona State has been good enough to allow my students to help out in all these different programs that we participate in. So just a little bit about Daytona State College, which has certainly grown quite a bit over the last decade or so. We are part of the Florida college system, part of the 28 colleges in the state. We're based in Daytona Beach, but we do have 6 campuses. So for those of you in other parts of District 5 thinking, well, how can I get student volunteers? We probably have a campus near you. So we have, of course, our Flagler Palm Coast campus. We have our Advanced Technology College, of course, the main campus on Daytona Beach, our New Smyrna campus, our DeLand campus, and our Deltona campus. The Deltona one, by the way, if your group is near that area, that one is starting to grow by leaps and bounds. So an average total of 26,000 students, and we are looking for ways to get them to engage with the community. We embrace excellence and diversity. We foster innovation to enhance teaching and learning, and part of that comes from programs to engage community enrichment. Next slide. So we teach beyond the borders with service learning. Now, service learning's been around in some form or another for many years, but it's now at a point where colleges are better defining the concept of service learning. So for Daytona State, we define it as reciprocal teaching and learning strategy that allows students to serve their college, their local and global communities through meaningful civic engagement integrated with instruction and reflection. So what that means is that typically with service learning, students are given a project, and that project has them engaging in some way with perhaps a bit of research, a bit of writing, but also getting out into the community and helping to provide solutions to problems. Maybe something as simple as needing to create an exhibit on a topic that hasn't been really promoted before in the community, or helping to volunteer and participate in a festival. Yeah, these kids love to do this kind of stuff. It's easy for them, and for a number of them, they are participating in events that, yes, they've lived in the community all their lives, but no, they're not engaged with the community. Now they get engaged through these events. They love their community. They start to get more involved. So service learning enhances social skills, analytical ability, civic and ethical responsibility, self-efficacy, and career development. Next slide. And as I mentioned before, we are connected with, of course, the college, Florida Ag Museum, Flagler County Historical Society, and this helps us get our projects done. And what is so great about young people is that you can propose, the most out-of-the-box project, and these kids are for it. If you have a group that maybe isn't as technologically advanced, the students are for it because they're your tech people these days. Really, anything you can think of, partner with students. They will help you get it achieved. Next slide. So goals for my students as part of the youth engagement program. They get school credit. Yeah, they're doing a paper. They got to do the paper in order to achieve a good grade. Increase respect and understanding of local history. As I said before, I've had students who may have gone to one of our parks here in Flagler County. For instance, we have Princess Place Preserve. Beautiful place. Everybody should come and see it. Some of these students may have been out there as a child, but for whatever reason, parents didn't keep taking them back. They didn't know the whole history. They go out there now. They participate in a program. As students will say, hey, this is kind of cool. Maybe I'll come back. And they start to come back and they start to want to work more and work to keep up the area. They do research. They do teamwork. They do public interaction experience. They are engaging with senior citizens that in any other situation, they probably wouldn't have done that. But now they start to talk to these people. They find out how fascinating these people are. It's always fun to get a 16-year-old and a 65-year-old or 75-year-old or even 95-year-old in a room and watch them interact. I mean, that's been one of the high points of this program. Next slide. So with all that in mind, let me tell you some of the things that we've done over the years. And again, I do encourage you, think outside the box. And if you've got an idea and are thinking, well, it's kind of a vague concept, how can I really shape this? Ask these kids, they will help you. So a couple of case studies to just give you a sense of what you can do. In both 2015 and 2016, Heritage Crossroads participated in the annual Creekside Festival. Did I have a question? Forgive me, I thought I heard somebody. They participated in the annual Creekside Festival. And the Creekside Festival is a huge event here in Flagler County with a number of different booths, people talking about history, nature, politics, if it's that particular year. And so in 2015, DSC students researched the history of the founding families of Flagler County. So we're talking about everybody from the DuPonts, the Deans, the Moody's. They had to go to the annex building for Flagler Historical Society. They had to talk to the local historians. They had to look at primary documentation and then put together a huge exhibit that was placed in what is called the Hunting Lodge out at Princess Place, where the Creekside Festival was. And so as we, Heritage Crossroads, we were in charge of giving tours of the Hunting Lodge. As people came in, they got to see these exhibits and they got to talk to the students. And of course, for families who are longtime families here in Flagler County, you could tell just how excited they were to ask questions of these young people and to be able to tell these young people their own stories and to have the young people comment, oh yes, we heard about such and such. And just the smiles that were on everyone's face was just fantastic. The following year, 2016, the students researched several of the resources along the byway to present to the public. So everything from the Little Red Schoolhouse to Beulah Plantation to the Ag Museum itself, and they gave different information to the public. As I have here, students served as docents in training, also to give tours of the hunting lodge. And the atmosphere was so electric that day that really for these students who may not have been the most attentive in a classroom, by midday, you're asking them, will you please help me do such and such and such and such? Oh, yes, Dr. Duke. Oh, my God, this is so great. I mean, they were fascinated by everything. And so it was a high point and a grand achievement on all sides. Next slide. A couple of pictures here. You see one that Mike Pelosi and I loved to always show of a girl named Victoria, or Tori, presenting the Little Red Schoolhouse. You can just tell the excitement there. And she did have genuine excitement. Anything I needed that day, she was right there ready to help out. These kids had never heard of things like the Little Red Schoolhouse. The other two you see from 2015, the Moody family, the Dean family. One of the members of the Dean family there, Cisco, pointing to his name, quite happy to see all that information. Next slide. History Day at Beulah Plantation Historic Ruins Park, 2017. This was in conjunction with the Friends of Tomoka Basin and Beulah Historic Ruins Park group. Students developed exhibits and introduced fourth graders from Belterre Elementary School to local history. Next slide. Now, this day was kind of a process event because there was inspiration from a previous event simply called Family Fun Day out at Beulah, in which I had a group of students do exhibits to be able to teach the public on the history of Beulah, and not just the history of Beulah Plantation, but the history of rice production, the history of the sugar production at the sugar mill that had been out there. The ruins are what's left. The history of slavery in Florida, which was transformed very much so from history of slavery under Spain, history of slavery under England, and then history of slavery under the United States. These kids put quite a lot in there, and was able to set up stations where you could walk around Beulah ruins and hear the progressive history of the site. Well, there wasn't that many in attendance that particular day, but we decided that we would still take it one step further. And with the Friends of Tomoka, we contacted and got an entire grade, not just one class, but an entire grade of fourth graders out there several months later, over 200 students. And we set up these exhibition stations once more. Next slide. And they began to, different set of students this time, they began to tell the story once more to these students. They also did such things as to plant sugarcane and learn about indigo production. We gave them ranger books from the state park system. And again, kids, dual enrolled kids, 16, 17-year-old students, who had never thought, oh, okay, I have to do this for a grade. Okay, I'll go out there and do this for a grade. Trust me, they were floating on air at the end of the day when the students left, because they connected with the students. They found creative ways to make the history fun for the 9-year-olds. And I think in making it fun for the 9-year-olds, they found it fun for themselves as well. So some of those words we've got on that slide, very important. Respect for the history, respect for the land. Experience, to make whatever your program is an experience, an interactive experience for kids to enjoy. And create meaningful civic engagement, to understand that these areas need protecting, they need promoting. They need people to come and learn from them. And these young people definitely helped in that regard. Next slide. Now, of course, in this last year with COVID, because of the masking, because of social distancing, we couldn't get out and do the hands-on programs as we would have liked to have. So I concentrated more on social media. And these kids will tell you what works, what doesn't work. In the past, I have had students put together some newsletters for Heritage Crossroads. We have an Instagram account. My students have told me this past spring, if you want to get young people, get on TikTok. So that's for the little bit of summer that's left. I got to learn TikTok, but I'm sure they'll teach me as well. Facebook videos, let them go to the various sites on your highway and give their own spin to those sites. Let them be creative. And podcast. It's a learning process with podcasts, but I'm going to try that again as well. These are things that students listen to, and things that young people listen to. So if you can catch somebody who's just wanting to hear a local podcast, try it out. And you can see a picture of one of our members, James Fisk, who we did this early on in COVID. Both of us masked at the annex building, but he managed to give us a few bits of good information that we put on videos for Facebook, and it was successful. So be creative, definitely. Next slide. And I think our most successful venture, I wanted one semester, one class. I told students, if you are an artist, if you love to creatively write, I want you to come into a group and write a children's book. Now, the instructions was simply thinking between first grade and fourth grade, perhaps. Be creative. If you've got brothers and sisters who are younger, ask their opinion. And then I pretty much said, go for it. And so 4 of the most quiet girls you would ever want in a classroom put together one of the most entertaining little booklets. And it's a group of animals that show the Heritage Highway and show the different sites. And Mike saw it, was thrilled about it. We have eventually had it printed not only in English but in Spanish. And I think later on, if today's program has enough time, they'll play a little YouTube video of a very special teacher on the west coast of Florida reading the booklet at the river's edge to her students. Next slide. So, lessons learned thus far, and I say thus far because I love to put these programs together now for my students to engage in. Students do gain research experience because for our students, if they're looking at, say, what happened here in Flagler County at the turn of the century, they're looking at primary documents. They're trying to make those connections between the past and the present. They're interacting with local historians. Give your local historians the opportunity to talk to students, to express their wealth of knowledge. You'll be amazed how fascinated the kids will become. They get to exercise their technical skills. I'm certainly not a podcaster, for example, but I said to students, all right, I need a group of you who will actually put your other classmates to record them and put them into an official podcast. Can you do it? A couple of students said, we're not quite sure, but we're willing to give it a go. That was all I needed, and they did pretty well with it. Exercise personal creativity. Yeah, for a lot of students, they don't want to do the same old type of assignment. They really do want to have a bit of free reign, and it is amazing what they'll come up with. As a result, they're going to earn an appreciation of their community's development, the important leaders in that growth. You know, I think now for some of my students, they still may not have as great of a knowledge of history as I would like for them to, but they'll know names. Names will prick up in their minds now, and they'll know exactly, oh yeah, it was the Moody's. Oh yes, this is why, you know, we have this thing called DuPont. For Heritage Crossroads and our partners, we get volunteers. You know, I love to be able to say to some of our partners, you got a program, you need some students, let me connect you with those students. We connect well with young families because of the youth engagement. It's been fun at times to be able to talk to the parents of some of these kids who are like, yeah, they really enjoyed that assignment because they were able to get out into the community. And they gain new ideas about preserving local culture, presenting it to the community. One thing I've also asked my students every time they finish a paper, particularly on a historical site in the community, for example, I ask them, how do we better promote this? What would you do? Give me some of your ideas. And then I pass on those ideas to that particular group. And it helps to really bring your groups into the modern age, into the 21st century. Slide, next slide. So how do you get started? Explore your options. Many colleges now have service learning committees. There is a National Service Learning Organization that colleges connect with. Colleges will welcome new ideas and events. Of course, I've been talking about history and heritage, but if you're an organization that, let's say, is more nature-based, more science-based, we have faculty who are on our service learning committee that would be more than happy to help you put together your program. At all of these campuses, we have faculty. So if you're interested, feel free to email me. I'll hook you up with the right people. We dialogue with college students, seek out their suggestions for programs to promote your highway. You know, sit down with them. Have a little pizza party with them. Kids love pizza. Yeah. Ask them or tell them about your highway. Tell them about the various sites. Ask them how they might promote it for you. The third part, very important. Be willing to have a service learning idea not be 100% the first time out. don't expect perfection. Try out an idea. Know that it might take 2 or 3 times before the outcome is what you want. You learn much from each attempt. With a small amount of failure, you learn to say, okay, well, we did this part right. We can change this. And again, ask your students. Ask the students, what would they change? You'll get better each and every time. Next slide. Some targeted projects. Sometimes if you want to get started but just want to start with something small, ask a faculty member if they can have students do work for you for extra credit. Some examples here: park cleanup. Yeah, we always need workers for that. Extra volunteers to help with the fundraiser event. Have students conduct research for your group. Have students look at your website and give their suggestions. Believe me, there are some of these students who will be very direct with you on what your website needs to look like, how it will connect with them. Next slide. Some additional suggestions, and these are things that I'm going to be myself working on, trying to expand some of the concepts that we've been engaging with in the last few years. One thing that some of my African American students have pointed out, help preserve local African American cemeteries. Yeah, that's one part of Florida's history that still needs to be fully understood and promoted. And the sad part is, if you know a bit about African American cemeteries here in Florida, some of them have been destroyed over the years. Some of them are in a bit of disarray. Connect with your local Black churches. See if they need some help in helping to preserve the cemeteries. Go out there and document who's there, who's buried in those cemeteries. You may be surprised at the important people you'll find in these cemeteries. Create a teen blog of local sites along your byway to pull in younger supporters. Yeah, let them blog about what the sites are like and what their viewpoint is, what they like, what they don't like. You'll be surprised, and you may be very surprised as to who they get into to like their blog and to comment. Conduct oral histories with local figures and members of the founding families along your byway. This is something that we definitely need to do more of to preserve our local history. Develop children's brochures for local historical sites. And I say historical sites, but any site. Because when families are going, doing a little bit of local vacationing, the kids want something to see. They want something to be handed to them. Make it colorful, make it interesting. Propose new kiosks for sites not promoted. Again, I'll go back to women's history, African American history. There are sites in District 5 that need to be better promoted. Look at those possible kiosks that they can help you put together. Learn about historical reenactment. A lot of that's done in this area. Those historical reenactors are getting older. They need young people. Get the students involved with that. Next slide. So overall, that is what we're doing here in Flagler County. And it's an exciting time for us. I hope I have shared some of that excitement with you. And I'm open for any questions that you may have.
Hey, Nancy, this is Karen. Great presentation. There were a few questions that were emailed to me, and I put them in the chat here. So the first question is, my byway is outside of District 5. Do you know of other colleges in the state that have similar programs to the service learning?
Very much so. In fact, probably if you'll just simply go on that college's website and in the general search engine type in service learning, I bet there's a committee that you can get in contact with.
Okay, thank you. And what would be my first couple of steps to get started with service learning for my byway?
Well, the first thing to do is, if you want to partner with a college, see if they've got a committee. If you're in District 5 and want to join up with Daytona State, please, please, please feel free to email me. I'll be more than happy to connect you with the right person, whether it's history. Keep in mind, for Daytona State, we have a business program, education program, science program. There's a lot of our faculty who are very excited, and I can get you connected with it. But the main thing is simply get started. Start small, maybe something that is more of a extra credit assignment than a big program. But once you get your foot in the door, then ask and work with a faculty member. See what they might propose as well.
And I know there's dual enrollment students, but is there an opportunity to use this type of program through the Bright Futures Scholarship for high school students?
Very much so. In fact, quite a few of my dual enrolled students who participate in a service learning project, they hand me their papers to sign off for the hours, and those hours do go to Bright Futures.
And since you've done this for several years, what would you say the most fun project is that you've done with your students?
Oh, I think definitely it's got to be the Creekside Festival, because they did just have such excitement about what they were doing out there, and learning that history was great. But also with the teaching the fourth graders out at Bulow, you know, it's fun with any of these projects, because as I was saying before, you'll have students who are sitting in a classroom while you're lecturing, and they're making some connections, but you can see it's not always, you know, unfortunately, history has never always been properly taught.
Right.
But once they're out there and interacting and they're talking to people, it's just so exciting to see them get excited. And it just makes what could be a very exhausting day, depending on the event, it just makes it so worthwhile.
Agreed. Thank you, Nancy. Those are all the questions that I see in the chat.
Nancy, what a fabulous, fabulous presentation. Thank you so much. Your service learning program, just, I find it so intriguing, and it's such a worthwhile program. And I hope some of the other byways jump on and take advantage of the local institutions near them, and also plug into that. So thank you very much, Nancy.
Thank you, Claudia. And again, if anybody has any questions after this, please feel free to email me. I'll be more than happy to answer those questions.
Okay.